Hey everyone, it's Kenlin, and welcome to this week's energy forecast for the week of July 28th. I'm regarding this as your new moon, pre-new moon report because we have a new moon coming in 1 week and we want to get ready for this new moon. This new moon is initiating some new beginnings as all new moons do. And so you're going to want to know, where does 13 degrees Leo fall in your chart? Everyone has 13 degrees, even if you don't have any planets there or any activations there. Everyone has 13 degrees Leo. So that's where the sun and the moon are. They're on the same side. And we're highlighting the Leo themes. Now, that's putting it really simply because there's so much geometry happening that I'm going to highlight that, plus what's happening with Venus, and then weave in some Mercury retrograde, and let us also presence that there is a Jupiter Saturn square happening, and there's also Chiron is retrograde in Aries. So this just begins to scratch the surface of all the things that are happening. And August is tumultuous, lots and lots of change. And also, we're seeing that the new is coming incrementally, but it's not staying fixed. It's coming, and then we're kind of like being thrown back into the past and then forward. There's a lot to clean up. Let's just say that. Not only clean up in our lives to get them oriented to the new, but cleaning up inside, particularly with our belief systems, our expression, our words. That's been the Jupiter in Gemini, Mars in Gemini. We had Mercury in Gemini. And now the action is moving to Leo and Virgo. And when it moves to Virgo, it's going to come back a little bit into Leo before it moves on again. So know where those places are in your chart, what houses they fall in. And so the themes, what's being worked here. Let's start with the new moon in Leo. It's at 12 degrees, 34 minutes. It's going to be at 7:13 a.m. Eastern time. So that's 4 in the morning Pacific time. And we'll call it 13 degrees of Leo. And so this is intention setting time because it's a new moon. It's darkest. This is like the representation of our conscious awareness being dark. And so we go inward. I don't like to have events on new moons unless they're quiet generally, because they're inward times. They're times when we're not here to celebrate. We're here to go inward and seed the next steps of what our future is. And this is where we can get alongside of intention, because if we just go on autopilot, our lives are repeat and repeat. Have you noticed? It takes something to get out of this drift mentality. It takes something to wake up. It takes something to see who you've been being. And that's where all these oppositions come from. You know, we would just continue on our merry way doing all the things we've been doing, destroying the oceans, destroying the atmosphere, destroying each other. But there takes like crashes that say, no, you know what? Wake up. And then we not only wake up, we reorder our entire lives. And that's what's been happening since 2020. And in fact, some of the geometry of the square of Jupiter in Gemini, Saturn in retrograde in Pisces, that's squaring on the full moon. So we're getting ready for this geometry to hit that was implicated at the very end of 2020, December of 2020. I mean, it's all related. So we're being taken through a narrative, taken through a context, and each of us has our own narrative inside the bigger narrative of change. This is not really a time where your new visions are going to come through and stick. They're going to come through, and then you're going to be dragged back into the past to clean up some more shit. And then you have new visions. Oh my God, that's so new. That's so cool. And then drag back in to clean up some old shit, whether that's your taxes or family dynamics or conversations that need to be had or truth that needs to get told. It's a lot of work. And we're seeing that Jupiter in Gemini is amplifying the conversation, social media ruled by Gemini. So let's just watch. This is the time when we get fights. We have fights on social media, as we're having over so many things: the Olympics, the assassination, the presidential candidates, all the things. And I get it. But it's nice to know that the geometry is this way and it's biased toward fighting. So then we get to say, holy crap, who do I need to be to step into my next level of leadership? I think that's what Leo brings us. So let's segue into the new moon in Leo and that conversation. So Leo is the heart of every sign. Leo represents the big heart, like the sun in your heart beaming out. And I like to feel into Leo beaming out my purpose, my dharma, because what lights me up the most is my purpose and my dharma. And so I feel that as a very Leo signature. That's the royalty. That's your self-expression. That's your sovereignty. That is when you are in your seat. So perhaps you haven't been so in your seat. Perhaps you've been allowing other things on the external to define you, to control you, to like whip you around. And Leo is asking you to come back to center. Who are you now? And I think also let's bring in Saturn retrograde in Pisces, asking you to show up in responsibility, to show up mature now. So you can't just barf everything you want on social media, right? We can't, because we're just contributing to the very mess that we're here to clean up. I've been trolling some of the comment sections of various Instagram follow people, and I've just been stunned when I look at people's profiles of who's vomiting. The ones vomiting are the ones that are also standing for, let's say, organic farms or health in your body, like they're integrative doctors. And I think, wow, you're doing so much to take the poisons out of the world, but you're putting back the poisons with your words. So that's, for me, that's how I learn. I look at other people and then I turn it on myself and say, and how are you doing that too? Because we're all in this mirror right now. There's nothing separately real. Everything is mirroring our own consciousness, our collective consciousness. And guess what? We're freaking responsible, responsible, not as a blame or shame or guilt, but as like you have a say in the matter. So that's like new moon territory, bringing that up, asking you personally to come into your heart, to bring in more love. And what does that mean? Like, we all love that statement. Oh, it feels so good. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean crap if you can't do it to the people who piss you off, right? So how do we learn? I mean, I know we're learning this as a species, as a culture. We're learning how we can each be so self-expressed and have our own viewpoints and our own belief systems and not get triggered. So that's the work of humanity right now. Thank you for being a part of that and contributing. Now what we're going to say is Venus. I think Venus is the bigger star in this time period. When we go to the full moon, that square between Saturn and Jupiter will be the star. And we're certainly ramping up to that. So August is an intense month. And it's foreboding the intensity that's coming when Pluto in Aquarius is retrograde. It's at the 0 degree mark, but the slow moving planet's going to be at 29 degree Capricorn. And that really implicates the old world. So bringing up the dredge, the sludge from the old world even more. So that's where the election is happening, during the old world. I mean, yeah. So we're right on track with what's happening in the energetics, and our job is to surf it. And I like knowing about it to surf it the best I can. Okay, so Venus is also going to play the game in Leo and Virgo. So is Mercury. Venus is at 29 degrees Leo by this new moon and will enter into Virgo at 0 degrees. I think this is a good thing. While I love Venus in Leo, and that's where she's become the evening star, she came out of her descent and she's queen of the heavens and earth. And she literally is queen for us because she is the archetype that represents our materiality, all the things that we love about life, our abundance, our money, the food we eat, the beauty that we can behold, our own adornment. That's all ruled by Venus. And when she enters Virgo, Virgo is the integration for our embodiment. You know, if you don't integrate material into your body, then you are just a talking head and you know a lot of things, but you don't practice them or you don't live them. And so there's a disconnect, you know, like a doctor giving advice to a patient about how to meditate, how to live, how to manage their thinking, and then not doing any of that in their own life, or doing some of it, but not really, and having addictions and, you know, belief systems that point people as being evil. We're caught in our own paradoxes, in our own traps, in our own inconsistencies. And so we get to integrate our truths. That's what Virgo supports us with, so that we can embody a deeper level of our truth. So when Venus goes to this 29-degree point, there's a lot of stuff that's happening here. Okay. She's moving away from a square with Uranus that was at the 26, 27 degrees of Taurus. So let's look at it like Uranus is the outer planet beaming to Venus because we're closer to Venus. She's how we live. So she's getting the codes from Uranus of a new world, of a new normal, of new messages. She's like being electrified, you know? And I like to think of it in a positive way, like she's vibrating with a new vibration. I feel like that's the higher octave of Uranus. And so she's being asked now, and we're being asked, what do you value? What do you love? What do you want? I mean, after you've been through everything you've been through, haven't your values changed? Haven't you seen through some of the illusions you had about things? And now you didn't even know to value it. And now you're like, wow, I really value, say, a friend who can keep a secret, or not a secret, but my confidences, a friend who really has my back, or a friend who listens. Like I took those things for granted until they didn't happen for me. And then this happened, and now I'm cleaning it up and I really value something. And this is so interesting. She's meant at this 29-degree point because these squares reveal more. So she's meant to crack you open. She's meant to crack you open. Like this is right on the plan. So if you're being cracked open, it's right on time. And I'm not seeing your chart particularly, but this is kind of like the bigger picture. So when Venus moves into 1 degree of Virgo, Mercury, this is all happening on the new moon, stations retrograde. So this is perfect because Virgo and Mercury get along really great, because what does a Mercury retrograde in Virgo is awesome, because it's reviewing, it's reassessing, it's all the re words, reimagining, rethinking, it's reanalyzing. And Virgo loves that kind of processing, because that's how the embodiment happens when we really get it. I had a friend who has feel first. The way he processes information is feeling first, then acting, and then last thinking. And my teacher would say, but just make sure you don't skip the last part, because your embodiment doesn't have a chance to catch up to what you know if you don't actually think through things at the end. Now, some of us, like me, I'm a think first, a feel second, and an act last. So my processes, I have to know where I get stuck. Everybody gets to know where they get stuck. I love this kind of like systems to help us pinpoint the places where we may have stagnation or stuckness. Okay, so when Mercury retrogrades, he's going to retrograde back into Leo. So he's going to revisit the themes of your sovereignty and your self-expression, your ability to take your seat, and what needs to be strengthened in you so that you can proceed on your dharma, so that you can shine. I think all of this is really saying to trust the inner compass, the inner light, which is Leo, and that light I was imagining of shining out your dharma. That Leo light shining through you of your purpose, through your heart, is what is asking you to be guided by? Not by your mind, because Gemini and Jupiter and Gemini is going to try to hijack that. Lots of ideas, lots of thoughts scattering you all over the place. But also Saturn retrograde is like, you can't do it all. You cannot do it all. And so your body is processing with Leo and Virgo, well, what can I do? What really lights me up? What is my truth? Where am I really in my seat? And then let's lastly say, this is why I think Venus is really the star of this new moon, is that she's in a receiving position of a yod, which is a finger of God. So she's got Pluto retrograde at 0 degrees Aquarius. Remember, Venus is in that 0 degrees Virgo. She's got Neptune 29 degrees Pisces. So what's happening is she just got energized by Uranus, like the outer planet, bringing this new information. But then Pluto, the wrecking ball, is saying, what do you need to let go of? Remember, he's the ruler of death and rebirth. So that's where the cracking open is going to happen. It's also the containment, because this Pluto is concerned with bringing in the new. That's why it's breaking down. You know, Pam Gregory said it this way. She said, you know, it's like the kitchen cabinets are being torn apart and it's a total mess in the kitchen, but you don't have to live in the kitchen. So we are being asked to get related to something else that we can live into while this wrecking ball is happening in our lives. And that is not living attached, not living in the drama. And so Pluto is going to present to you your future self. Who are you becoming? But it's going to do that through what is the old you. And that's giving information to Venus. So Venus is then like, we're able to be in our embodiment as the new us. And then we have that yod, the finger of God, represents the Pluto, Venus, and Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces. So that Neptune is, I think, part of what needs to happen in this whole configuration is the illusions that have to die at that 29 degree point. So Neptune, the higher octave, is our connection to God, but also the lower octave, it's escapism, it's illusions. It's the veil that we think is truth, but is not truth. It's our biases, our confirmation bias. That's the word. It's the way that we confirm our own, like drinking of the Kool-Aid. I think Saturn in this whole thing is actually the wise old soul in all of this, saying, okay, guys, okay, guys, you know, we got to grow this thing up because humanity on Earth is not going to survive at this level of fighting. Let's grow this up. And that means we individually have to grow ourselves up. So I love that we have the Pisces energy, we have the Aquarian energy, we have the Leo energy, we have the Virgo energy. And then we have some Gemini energy that's making things feel fun and alive and electric and buzzy, but also it gets to get grounded with all the other energy. So Mercury is going to do this whole job. So imagine this Mercury is in Virgo, and then it goes retrograde all the way back to 21 degree Leo. So it's traversing all this territory again to make sure we get it. So I think that at the end of the day, I'm going to say that this astrology always is for us and not against us, that squares and oppositions are these challenge points that force an outcome. They force us to see something we don't want to see. They force us to be leaders. Like if we were just to be, super comfortable, we'd be a blob. We would never want to change. We would never want to face stuff. So these squares and oppositions are really what make you. When you think back to your life, you're going to remember how the adversity made you into who you are. That's huge. So take it on with that in mind. Okay. I love it. I'll see you on the next video, and let's prepare for our new moon in Leo.